Hey guys, welcome back to Russian Libertas Corpus YouTube channel where we, Alexei Postnikov, Gala Bogatova, answering your questions about Russia and talking about sometimes news from Russia, sometimes political events, tendencies in Russian society or changes in Russian political structures, where unfortunately the last one hopefully will cover those changes one day, but it's not going to be today. Today, however, we have a rather big news as it appears to discuss, and that's order, the arrest order warrant.
Yes, arrest warrant. So on March 16th, the International Criminal Court has issued the arrest warrants for Vladimir Putin for unlawfully deporting Ukrainian children to Russia.
Right. And as an unexpected guest star of this criminal warrant is Russian children ombudsman Lyvova Belova. That's her double last name, whatever, not so many people knew about her in Russia before that.
Right.
Now they know. And now she's next to Vladimir Putin for genocidal practices in Ukraine with those charges. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. First of all, I would like your opinion about how why this specific charge was issued, why specifically this occasion was the subject for the warrant, for the arrest warrant. Why not the events in Bucha, for example, or Mariupol? Why do you think they have chosen this particular event to focus on and to take it to the court?
Well, I would guess that if we remember the Russians' side on every war crime Russian army committed in the Ukraine, it was like it wasn't us, it was Ukrainians, it was all a hoax, it was all staged, whatever. They have like 7 to 10 bullshit explanations for every war crime that was very well documented by independent media, and was, well, of course you've heard about this. In this case, not only they did not deny it, but they were basically the ones who publicly brought attention to this situation. Because in Russian independent news sources, and by the way, if you haven't seen our video about Russian independent media, check it here with some links attached to sources in English, but it's Russian independent media in exile now. Anyway, they were talking about this problem when Russian, troops, or not necessarily troops, evacuating Ukrainian children to Russia from the occupied territories, without even trying to find their relatives in the other parts of Ukraine. So basically just kidnapping those kids and then trying to re-educate them, because that's the whole story about
right.
denazifying Ukraine, because those kids apparently are,
right.
sick with the Nazi virus, or whatever they have as an explanation. But about a month ago, publicly, Putin and this lady Lyvova Belova, they had a conversation on camera about...
By the way, Lyvova Belova is the Children's Rights Commissioner, just
yes.
for somebody who was not familiar with
yeah.
it.
They had this public conversation on cameras, widespread by official Kremlin, about the situation with kids from occupied territories. And she was like, yeah, we have a lot of them and we're working on that, and we need to create a legislative base to let Russian families to adopt them. from the occupied territories, although they have like a different citizenship, which is kind of a problem. And even herself adopted one of the teenagers from Donbass. So basically, they were bragging about it, and they were very proud. But what do you know? This is actual one of the genocidal practices.
Yeah.
Officially,
right? So this is very interesting that they were not aware that what they are doing can be referred to the genocide, because in our imagination, genocide is something that is referred to cruelty, to massive mass murdering, to tortures, and the pictures of violence. That's what we draw when we talk about genocide. But in fact, genocide sometimes and very oftentimes has this element in it that is not intrinsic to just plain mass murders, which is the erasure of cultural markers. For example, why some war crimes, for example, wartime rape, can be recognized as just war crime, and others, wartime rape, could be recognized as genocide. That's the intention behind this action. Is the intention to just rape and demoralize the opponent, or to raise the marker of the cultural marker of the opposing nation or ethnic group, to erase them on a genetic level? Same with kids. Why do you have the intention to deport the kids? Just to save their life? But no, they mentioned that they wanted to re-educate them.
And that was a crucial part of this whole program, because they were talking about it all the way. And, well, it's not very, I would say, they want to give those kids the same type of education they want to give to Russian kids, which is also terrible. But when we talk about children from Ukraine, it's basically they trying to erase their Ukrainian identity.
Right.
Well, I mean, Ukrainian identity, I'm doing the quotes because for them it does not exist. It's something imaginary. They pretty open about it. And that's, I think, the reason why, well, if you have a criminal basically admitting the crime, it's very
obvious that you don't have to work through this old process of finding evidence, validating this evidence through independent parties witnessing. So this was a very handy case.
Yeah.
It was just out there. The Russian party has confessed it, and it's very interesting that they were not aware of the situation that they themselves get into. And I have a question to Alex. Do you think they were not aware of it, or they didn't care because they just do not understand the consequences of this event?
That's a really good question, because the erosion of law system in general in Russia happening for at least, I would say, now 12 years. So it's not only we have more repression laws, but also we have these practices of not taking those laws seriously, because if seriously Russian law enforcement would be to execute all the repression laws, basically I would say maybe 90% of Russian population should be in prison.
What you're trying to say is that the inefficiency of legal system of Russia, they self-projected onto the international legal system. Because the law inside the country doesn't work effectively, they just projected onto the others, and also applied this paradigm that the stronger cannot be arrested, judged, or the subject to an arrest warrant.
Well, for example, so Russia for a long time was pretty legist country, where all the cruelty was somehow attached to the system of law. Ridiculous laws, but anyway, it was a system, and they were trying to be accurate with the bureaucracy and documents. But the first sign of this like system stopped working was in the fall, when we have, after the first wave of mobilization. So mobilization started with presidential decree, and according to Russian laws, it can end with another presidential decree. But at some point, Putin just said, "Oh well, we got people we wanted," and then like, so the mobilization is over. He was asked, and he was like, "Yeah," and then he was asked, "Well, are you gonna release the decree to end the mobilization?" He's like, "Oh well, I don't know. Like, do I need to do that? I think like we're good."
Yeah.
And
so
and the moment, I mean, it's pretty insignificant for anybody outside Russia, like whatever. But in fact, that showed, at least for me, that now they completely done with this being accurate with the papers thing, because now they just don't care. And also in the past, I think 2 or 3 months, Russia officially got out from every European agreement, on human rights, the system of European courts of human rights. They just got out. Maybe they thought like, oh, okay, like it doesn't apply to us anymore. So we can just not care about this. So yeah, maybe they just, adopting these practices, they just didn't think it's important anymore.
Okay, so what I hear from you is that first of all, they devalued the legal mechanism inside the country, so they just devalued it everywhere. And second of all, they detached themselves from the legal environment of the Western world that they used to think they're at least partially part of.
Yeah.
So now they just didn't. So basically, they didn't care. Right, like in a broad meaning, in a broad sense of this word, they didn't care.
They were really thinking about it. Like, oh, could they charge us with genocide?
Right, but they did not think for a reason. Did not think about that because they devalued the legal system and they detached themselves from the legal system of the West. I agree with you, but I would also add the factor of mentality. What I think that happens in the mentality of the current Russian elites. First of all, of course, they are extremely terrified. They have other issues to think about it, like real threats. But also, they don't really think in those categories, in the legal categories whatsoever. In their opinion, the one in power just cannot be charged with the arrest warrants. In fact, it is very rare. Usually, in these dimension of politics, the main players, they cannot be judged, or it is not a very popular practice to issue the arrest warrants for the head of state. And in the understanding of the local elites, it was just impossible because they did not even expect to what degree the authority of Putin and his legitimacy went down in among the international community.
Right.
They just did not even imagine how devalued his power is now.
Also, what is definitely 100% sure, Putin is the first leader of the nuclear power country with nuclear weapons who got charged with by the International Criminal Court. And it is a big deal. By now, the whole nuclear blackmail, I guess everybody realized that it's not gonna happen. So, and other than that, Putin has nothing to threaten the world with. Except, I mean, he's still a big threat for neighboring countries, especially for Ukraine, where war is still going, and for smaller countries who, have borders with Russia. But also we're going to talk a little bit about that. But yeah, like to the rest of the world, there is nothing he can do. So
what are the consequences for him having those warrants issued? In my understanding, first of all, just in a alleged understanding of this situation, he cannot travel to the countries that ratified and signed off this the Roman statue that is the foundation of the ISCC. So he cannot travel there, which what it means, and it will be there until the trial. What it means is that he is done as the Russian leader. He is done for the Western society. His candidacy for presidency is unrecuperable.
Yeah, like
whatsoever.
Remember, was it like last summer, the Big 20 summit, and there was all those talks about will Putin meet Biden, or how's it gonna play it out. But now this is done.
Yeah.
I mean, now
this is no way back anymore. There is no chance for him to remain in power and be recognized by the majority of the world community. He has blocked his way back.
Yeah.
So now it is 100% guaranteed that if Russia wants to be included in the global trade and the global political game, they need to have a new leader that is not contaminated with the charges from ICC.
Right.
So you mentioned that Putin still represents a threat for the neighboring countries. Could you please elaborate a bit on that?
So the interesting small detail that Armenia, one of the smaller countries, post-Soviet countries that still has a border with Russia and still has Russian military base within its borders, joined the Roman Statute since the order of warrant got issued, which I was really surprised by that, because Armenia is not very big. Already they have a big problem in Nagorno-Karabakh with Azerbaijan backed by Turkey. So, probably Putin's level of influence is so low that for Armenian, leaders, it was obvious. So for them, it's safer now to join the big, symbolically join the big coalition of countries that stand with Ukraine and against Putin. But I'm saying symbolically because Putin is not going to go to Armenia to get arrested.
But still,
fantastic scenario.
They used to rely on Russia, who used to back them up in Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. But now, when Russia failed to support them, failed to intervene, now they find it a useless case to rely on, and find it a more making more sense to sign off the Roman Statute to join the Western community. I wonder if this vision is going to spread around the Russian neighborhood, so to say, and the countries will one by one follow the conventional trajectory of Western countries, because Russia is now so helpless that even ICC issued the arrest warrant for their leaders.
Even within Russia, although officially they were laughing about this warrant, they were ignoring it.
Of course, yeah.
But 17 children starting issuing the warrant until the day we're recording this video were actually, sent back to Ukraine? Deported back to Ukraine. Returned to Ukraine, which is... they didn't make a big fuss about it, but that's a thing how Russia used to be with European law when European Human Rights Court was, making a decision in favor of Russian citizens who got wronged by Russian government, and Russian government paid the compensation. They even paid a compensation to Alexei Navalny, which is ironically,
I think that's not only that, but I think the reputation of Vladimir Putin, whether they wanted to admit it or not, suffered quite a bit from just being in the same discursive space with the words like arrest, criminal court. So I think his the populace trust and his prestige, I'm pretty sure, it went down.
Yeah, and I just want to end this on very symbolically bright note. So if we look at the date, so the warrant for Putin's arrest was issued on March 16th, right?
Okay, yeah.
And then on March 18th, the movie Navalny got an Oscar. So if we look in the symbolic field, what maybe it's just me, but it seems like the world generally sends the signal to Russians and Russia that, you know, Putin is definitely not gonna work, like 100%. Although we're not dismissing you completely.
Right. So this is the alternatives, the symbolic official messages to both. It is not about Russians. It's about the leader.
Yes.
The leader needs to be punished. So I think that's a great summary of this discussion.
Yeah. And if you haven't watched our video about Navalny, also check it here. And I guess that's it for today. Let us know if you have any questions. What do you think about Putin's possible arrest? Will it happen? Is it just symbolic?
Or do you agree? Do you agree that it affects Putin in any ways? Do you think it's not a big deal, or is it? Yeah. I'm very curious.
Did
about
you
your
lose
opinion.
Respect for Putin if you
just because of this arrest
or
warrant?
If you had some left, I don't know.
If you had any doubts, did it actually cancel those?
Right. And of course, like this video, share it, show it to your friends, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and I think I covered all the ritual things we need to say. So please do that, and really hope to see you next time.
Bye-bye.